To what's happening in your state, 1,200 illegal immigrant children are being moved to Fort Sill, the third military base now being used to house and care for these young children who have been brought to our border, dumped at our border. As many as 60,000. We're expecting 250,000 over the next 2 years. This is, the president calls it a crisis. Most Republicans that I've heard from say it's a crisis of the president's making. Your thoughts?
Oh, it absolutely is a crisis the president's making. He continues to work on deferred action for those that are here. He continues to talk about amnesty, continues to talk about DREAM Act. We continue to talk about securing the border first. And the reason for that is very simple. If you don't secure the border first, this is what actually occurs. And so our continual focus is we have to have border security before we talk about anything else for anybody else of any kind. Because I can tell you the vast majority of our caucus, including myself, are not amnesty folks. I don't promote an amnesty. I don't think that's how you build a nation. I don't think you begin a relationship with the greatest country on earth by doing an illegal act. But now we have this flood of children coming in, and they are children coming across the border that are being sent, that are being collected, put in these bases, and they're holding them and processing them until they can get them to a family member already here in the United States. That is a problem for us as a country.
It is a problem. It is also categorically clear that the nations from which most of these children originate are 1,800 miles away from the border upon which they're being dumped. It seems to me to be an absolutely irresistible conclusion that this administration, the Obama administration, the governments of El Salvador, the governments of Guatemala, Costa Rica, Honduras, the Mexican government are working in concert to put these children on an 1,800-mile journey through the middle of Mexico to our southern border. It's despicable what they're doing here.
And it's a human rights disaster for children on this. I don't know anyone that would say, you know, what's the best thing for children is to move them away from their parents, move them across deserts, hire them out to coyotes to be able to move them, to be able to be in some sort of care for some short period of time, or whatever length of time this may be, on some American military base, and so we transition to another relative in some type. This is an absolute terrible way to do this. We've incentivized it in the process. These are very dangerous, very violent locations, but it's not any better than what we're currently experiencing these children doing. This is the problem. When the president incentivizes this, he's opening the door. When you refuse to enforce the borders, this is what happens on it. So it's very important not only for the protection of children south of the border, but also for the American government as well and for our nation, that we actually secure a border. We can do it. This is not rocket science. We can do this.
Yeah, and I don't think the American people need to be, frankly, deceived by this administration, as this administration seems intent upon doing. Speak straightforwardly to the American people. Let's have an assessment, a discussion, a dialogue, and come to a consensus. But administration after administration, this is not the first, as you know. President George W. Bush insisted on driving forward comprehensive immigration reform, as he put it, amnesty, open borders, without bringing the American people together. This turns out to be utter madness, doesn't it?
It is utter madness, and this is why we talk about over and over again, by breaking it up into smaller pieces. There are problems that are out there. We do need better hardware. We do need better software. We need better technology all along the border to be able to help secure the border. That is something we need to pass and we need to do. We need to deal with high-skilled work visas. What are we going to do with someone who comes to the United States as a student, gets a degree in engineering or in mathematics or science, medical research, wants to stay here? Should we be able to allow those folks to be able to stay here and be able to invest in an American company? That's something we have to be able to resolve in law. All the enforcement for 20 some odd years, the United States has had a law that we have to do a border security and an interior security system. That if someone comes to the country legally, student visa, work visa, travel visa, we know when they come out, we know when they leave. That's never been applied by multiple administrations. That has to be fixed.
And we're going to see what all is fixed. Congressman James Lankford, we're going